What's going on, guys? JHoyt back with you today. Welcome back to some NHL 19, and for the first time in a while, welcome back to some NHL in the background. Instead of it's not clips or anything, it's actually a gameplay from this past weekend with the Hut Champs. I know I felt decent this weekend, except for a couple of games where if you guys follow me on Twitter, you'll know how those ones ended. But today, we're going to be talking about the Edmonton Oilers and, what they can do because, who was it? I think it was it Frank Cirelli or whatever his name is that tweeted out today that apparently the Edmonton Oilers are going a full court press of trying to find players for their team. Now, they're not wrong of trying to do that, but let's talk about what's actually wrong with Edmonton. I would say let's start in the front office because Peter Chiarelli has not been really making the greatest of moves recently, and it's not been a fun time to be an Edmonton fan. I mean, I'm not an Edmonton fan, but I can only imagine that every time I see anything come out from Edmonton, people are always saying fire Chiarelli, fire Chiarelli, fire Chiarelli. And this year, I mean, they fired their coach. Now they got a new coach in there. They haven't really done too great with him. So what's the problem? It's the personnel. And not only the personnel, but it kind of happens in the front office as well. Peter Chiarelli, you haven't really been that great for Edmonton, honestly. And, let's kind of go over something. So, trades. Now, I don't remember when Chiarelli first took office. But, one of the many trades that came through Edmonton that kind of screwed them over. Everyone remembers the famous Taylor Hall to New Jersey for Adam Larson. What? How'd that trade work out for you? New Jersey made out great in that trade. Absolutely fantastic in that trade. Not so much for Edmonton. Adam Larson, yes, he's a decent right-handed defenseman, but for the caliber that Taylor Hall is, yikes, is what I'm saying. Then you look at the first-round failure in Nail Yakupov. He wasn't that bad in his first couple of years, but after those first couple of years, he wasn't too great. So they traded him away. Traded him for some random player that no one's ever heard of and a conditional third-round pick. So, okay. So you get a third-round pick that ended up being something. And then you had a player that I've never heard of. So he's probably nothing. So, a couple of trades that were questionable. I mean, like I said, Yakupov wasn't too terrible. But he wasn't nearly as good as he was projected to be. I'll say it that way. Then you look up the line of random trades, one player for one player, and they're all just a bunch of random nobodies until you get to another fantastic trade. Jordan Eberle to the Islanders in exchange for forward Ryan Strome. Now, personally, I don't know how Eberle is doing in the Islanders organization, but Ryan Strome is now with, is it New York? With the Rangers. So, obviously not the greatest. I mean, they traded Ryan Spooner away for, or whichever way it was, but they traded away Strome to get Ryan Spooner, and they all kind of haven't really become much of anything. Then you go up the line with Michael Camilleri for Jussi Jokinen. Again, another questionable trade that, I don't remember too much about. Then a bunch of other trades that really honestly did nothing for them. Honestly. Did absolutely nothing. Until you get to Ryan Spooner for Ryan Strome. I already said that, I know. But then you look at a trade like Chris Weidman for a 6th-round pick. A third-line defenseman for a 6th-round pick. I mean, personally, I know what Chris Weidman is. I know what he could be. He's just coming off of, what was it, hip surgery or leg surgery or something that he was out basically like all year. So, I don't give him too much crap. I mean, I think he was doing pretty decent. But, I mean, the guys in Ottawa aren't very smart either. So, I mean, their trades haven't been the best. There's been no real major trades since like 2017. You haven't really tried to get anyone in the organization. And then you look at their team that they have now. You have Ken Hitchcock putting together these lines that I'm going to pop up on screen. Kara, McDavid, and Cassian. Now, if I took out McDavid from that line, you'd probably think that was a fourth line. But no, this was their first line. Second line, Lucic, Nugent Hopkins, Puljujarvi. Again, this line isn't that bad, honestly. If Lucic could play up to what he was back in the Boston days, this line wouldn't be that bad. But then the third line, Ryder, Draisaitl, Chason. This line's terrible, to be honest. I mean, it's a third line that just is made up of whoever, basically. I mean, we'll get to where I think Draisaitl should be in a second. But then fourth line of Spooner, Brodziak, and Ratty. Now, this lineup is very, very questionable. If it was me, I'd put Lucic on one of the top three lines. I'd put Ryder on one of the top three lines. Spooner on one of the top three lines. Ratty on one of the top three lines. Puljujarvi and Chason all in the top 9. Put Cassian, Brodziak, and Kara on your fourth line. Everyone else, find a spot in the top 9. But then you look at two guys that I'm going to bring up. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. These two players should be playing on the same line all the time. These two players work phenomenal together. Last February, I went down to New Jersey to watch New Jersey versus Edmonton. It was an absolutely fantastic game. Goes to overtime. 3-on-3. Who's on the ice? McDavid and Draisaitl. Guess who I was talking to the guys, or the people next to me? Who should you watch? McDavid and Draisaitl. Guess what happened? McDavid and Draisaitl. Guess who should be together? Draisaitl and McDavid. Haha, switched it up on you guys. But those two players should definitely be together. No question about it. Put, Nugent Hopkins with a guy like maybe Puljujarvi, with Lucic, depending on who he plays best with. And, surround your offensive forces with more offensive forces. But you don't really have the talent here. You just kind of have a bunch of randoms that, haven't played the greatest on your team. It's trying to surround your franchise players. And these forward lines just don't make sense. So you find another good player to play alongside with Nugent Hopkins or McDavid. Move Draisaitl up to one of your top 2 lines. And at least you have, two duos, essentially. Your first and second line. And at least you got something there. Then if you find something else to put on your third line or fix your defense or whatever the case is, it would definitely help. But you got to also look at Peter Chiarelli, not the greatest at making trades. So maybe free agency, tell your forwards, hey, you might get a chance to play with Connor McDavid and you might get someone to sign there. I don't know. But also, the guys that are there, other than the top 3 of McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nugent Hopkins, nobody is really performing. Clefbaum was doing pretty decent from the back end until he got hurt. I don't know when exactly he's coming back. But late January. Okay, so he should be back, anytime here. But with the exception of him, they haven't really had anyone step up. Like, no one's really earned anything in this team. So, that's another problem. You need to find players to play around these top guys. You got 3 good forwards, 3 good young forwards, but you don't really have a lot surrounding them. Goaltenders, you got Cam Talbot and Mikko Koskinen, I think that's how you pronounce it. Talbot doesn't look to be playing that great. I can't see his record on Elite Prospects, but his goals against and save percentage aren't the best. The backup looks to be playing pretty decent, but I don't know. This team is a whole big mess, and even if you look at everyone that's played with McDavid, their entire roster has played with McDavid. Draisaitl has more than double anyone else. So you got to find players that want to play with McDavid, that can perform with McDavid, not necessarily, his point pace or anything, but find people that can play with him to make him better, to make them better, and, try to be like a Sidney Crosby where whoever you put with them can kind of get better. I mean, look at a guy like Jake Getzel, Connor Sheary, guys like that play with Crosby, and and just instantly became better. But now you have guys that are, you just need to fix your entire roster, is basically what I'm saying. Get rid of the guys that are on stupid contracts. You know, try to get rid of them, whatever it takes. Get forwards to surround your good guys. Try to maybe trade away a guy like Chris Russell, who's making $4 million for the next couple of seasons, that probably doesn't really fit your team too great, and try to get maybe a right-hander in there to play behind Larson. But other than that, I mean, you got a decent team, but you just got to find some more high-end picks and high-end players to play around Nuge, McDavid, and Draisaitl. If you do that, you might have a chance, but until you do that, either coaches, management needs to be changed. I mean, they got to get good players in there somehow. But anyway, guys, as this one wraps up, as he makes it 5-4, and we're all dead tired on the ice, we're going to end up closing out the game right here. But also at that time, we're closing out the video. What do you guys think? Let me know in that comment section below if you agree with me or not. But if you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, guys, we'll see you next time.